Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, I have to again tell the families that we will continue to pursue this, and all the facts need to be known about what took place and hold people accountable. And then next to the witnesses, thank you for your service. Thank you for your bravery in actually coming forward. And again, some of the commendable acts of the State Department employees you described. As everybody may know, and I follow up really on my colleague Mr. Clay's question about the report there, Accountability Review Board report, and I've got, this is the unclassified version. There's a classified version also. This is available online. And we have a responsibility under law to review these situations and to go to people who actually had firsthand knowledge. Now, Mr. Thompson, you have a very important position. The title is Bureau of Counterterrorism and Leader, Foreign Emergency Support Team, U.S. Department of State, right?
Correct.
Okay. And did you participate? Were you interviewed by the ARB?
I was not.
You were not interviewed. Okay. And you were on the job during this period?
I was at my desk that night till 2 o'clock in the morning.
And you were not allowed to convey information to the board?
On the 17th, I conveyed my request to be interviewed before the board.
And so they did interview you after that?
No.
Have you ever been interviewed?
I have not.
You have not. So you're one of the primary players, but yet the board failed to interview. Would you say that's correct?
That is a correct statement.
Mr. Thompson, is he an important player? I'm sorry, Mr. Hicks, is Mr. Thompson an important player in this? Mr. Nordstrom?
I would say yes,
Okay.
certainly in the aftermath of the attack.
Okay. Let me go to Charge Hicks. Were you interviewed by the board?
I was interviewed by the board.
Were you able to convey all the information that you felt was necessary regarding this incident to the board?
The interview took about 2 hours, and it was, in my mind, incomplete. A few days later, I had a separate meeting briefly with the Executive Secretary.
So you did have a follow-up meeting, and you expressed that
with the board's Executive Secretary to amplify on some issues that had been discussed at the meeting, at the initial interview.
And Mr. Nordstrom, did you participate?
I did. On 2 occasions, I also shared with them
Could you
a luminous
share how
amount
that
of...
process worked that we heard from Mr. Hicks?
Sure. Is this similar...
Was it thorough?
I felt it was thorough and professional. As I said, the report, and as I've held, the report is fairly thorough and comprehensive. My issue is that they stopped short of interviewing people that I personally know were involved in key decisions that led to how those events unfolded.
Well,
specifically, how those buildings were staffed and constructed and in variance with existing standards. Those are all critical to the...
They fell short. Well, in the unclassified version, they said security in Benghazi was not recognized and implemented as a shared responsibility by the bureaus in Washington charged with supporting the post, resulting in stovepipe decisions on policy and security. Now, the next part is interesting. That being said, Embassy Tripoli did not demonstrate strong and sustained advocacy with Washington for increased security for Special Mission Benghazi. Would you both agree with that?
If I could speak to that, I would disagree that it was a collaborative process. I'm not sure exactly the term they used. On a number of occasions, I testified in October as well, I raised issues, others raised issues, the ambassador raised issues, the DCM raised issues, to the point where reports and decisions on both the Tripoli compound and the Benghazi compound were decided in Washington, and those decisions were not either cleared with us or shared with us. So that doesn't seem as a collaborative process.
I want to have time for Mr. Hicks to tell us about his. Thank you, Mr. Nordstrom.
Yes, sir. I monitored the discussions that Eric has testified about from my Arabic language student status. When I arrived in Tripoli, I had the understanding that these decisions had been settled and that we were not to relitigate them in terms of the number of personnel security personnel at post. I began a process to attempt to relitigate them in mid-August, and we held an EAC meeting to discuss the matter, and we were unfortunately unable to return to that issue before 9/11 occurred.
Thank you.